Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to do my series check-in. So basically, this is going to be my 2024 series check-in, and I'm going to tell you how many series I started, how many series I finished, how many series I got caught up on, and how many series I DNF'd. And I'm going to talk about all of them. At the end, I'm also going to tell you about my goal. I'm not really doing any goals this year, so this is going to be a loose goal, but I do want to lower the amount of series I am reading because I do feel like it stresses me out. So let's get started. I am gonna put the series next to me here. I'm just gonna put pictures in here. Editing Aya is gonna hate me, but I really don't feel like grabbing all these books. So let's get started. I started the year off with 48 open series. And let me actually tell you about my goal because I did not accomplish it. My goal was to get to 38 open series. Okay, so 10 less than what I started with. Instead, I ended up with one more than what I started with. I finished with 49 open series, so definitely more than I wanted. So I started 35 series in total, 23 of which I haven't finished yet or I haven't caught up with yet. 5 of them I got caught up on. I started it in 2024 and also got caught up on the series in 2024. 3 I started in 2024 and also finished in 2024, and then 4 I started but I DNF'd, so will not be continuing. So let's get started with the series I started and still need to finish. So like I said, those are 23. The first one is the Salacious Players Club by Sarah Kate. This one I started at the very beginning of the year. In fact, the next ones I all started in the same vlog. I only read Praise this year. The goal was to read a couple more this year. I didn't have any high expectations of actually finishing it, but I am kind of disappointed that I didn't read more than just Praise. So I still need to read 5 in this series. The next is Cloverleaf Farms. So like I said, I started it in the same vlog. I read Irresistible in that vlog and I haven't continued on with it. I still need to read 8 books. So I'm counting the spin-off because I believe on Goodreads it also counts the spin-offs in that series. Yeah, they do. So I'm just going to count it too. These are not very long, but Irresistible was not my favorite, so I didn't really feel that compelled to continue on. Next is one I am, like I said, very sad that I didn't continue on with it. It's The Victorian Rebels by Kerrigan Byrne. So I read The Highwayman, and that one was my second favorite book I read this year. So I cannot believe that I did not continue on with it yet. So I read The Highwayman, and I still need to read 6 others. And there's also a spin-off for this series, but I'm not even counting that one. Pucked, also one of my favorite books I read this year. I read it in the same vlog, and I still have not continued on with it. But I did put the second book on my February TBRs. Hopefully I will get around to it. But Pucked, I still need to read 7 other books in this series. The Wicked Villains, I actually do have that one. I started Desperate Measures, once again in that same vlog, and I have not continued on with it, and I still need to read the 6 other books. Then The Mafia Wars, I read for my Mafia Romance vlog. I read Ruthless Stranger, and I still need to read 9 books, and these are not very short books, so I think I just put it off. I have heard amazing things about like the 4th book. Like I've heard amazing things about other books in this series, so I still want to continue on with it. I just haven't yet. Another series I started in that vlog was the Perfectly Imperfect series. So I read Broken Whispers, and I still need to continue on. Like a lot of people really love this series, and I liked Broken Whispers, but I didn't love it as much as other people. So I think that's the reason why I didn't continue on with it yet. The Crowns of Nyaxia series. The goal was actually to get caught up on it, but I haven't yet. So I read the first 3. So I am counting the novella. So I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night, 6 Scorched Roses and the Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. And the reason I actually read The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King is because I wanted to read The Songbird and the Heart of Stone as soon as it came out, but that was during the Goodreads Choice Award, so I have not continued on with this series, but I still need to read Slaying the Vampire Conqueror and The Songbird and the Heart of Stone. The Boys of Tommen series, this one I am putting off because I know Saving and Redeeming 6 are gonna break my heart, and I am avoiding feeling that way, but I think I want to do it. I think I want to read it like in the first quarter of the year, I think. So I read Binding and Keeping 13 for reading BookTube's favorite romances of 2023. And I still need to read Saving and Redeeming 6 and Taming 7. But like I said, like Joey, I love him already. And he already broke my heart in the first duology. So I just know this. I know I'm going to cry with his duology, and I'm not in the mood to do that yet. So I don't know. Maybe I'll read it in like February or March. The Green Sisters series by Christina Forrest. I read The Neighbor Favor earlier this year, and the second book came out around that time. And the third book will come out in February, actually. I believe the third book will be the last one, so I do want to read the second and third book this year. The Skyland series by Kennedy Ryan. So I read This Could Be Us earlier in the year, and the third book comes out in March, I believe. So my goal is to read Before I Let Go in February, so then I can read Can't Get Enough. Oh, it comes out in May. But I still want to read Before I Let Go in February, so then I'm all caught up before the third one comes out. Next is the Priest series by Sierra Simone. I read the first two in 2024, and I still need to read the last one, Saint, and I have plans to do that in February as well. I am doing a finishing series video, so you'll see that, I believe, at the end of February. The Love Lines series by Cara Bastone. This one I am surprised I haven't finished yet, because it's like audiobook novellas, and I really, really enjoyed the first two. I only need to read the third one, and I think my plan was to finish it in December. But now I think I'm gonna listen to it this month. The Ice Planet Barbarian series. So this is a very, very, very long series. I don't anticipate I'm gonna be finishing it anytime soon, but I read the first one during my reading slump, and I think the reading slump kind of ruined the book a little bit for me. So I haven't really been compelled to continue on, but I do know it's a lot of people's favorite series, and I know that there's a lot of spin-offs, and I do want to read more in this world. So I think my plan is to read a couple of them a year. The More to Love series by Jessa Kane. So I read King Sized earlier this year, and there are like 5 other novellas. I think my plan with this series is to read like a couple novellas. So I want to read a little bit more novellas this year, and I think I'm gonna read a couple of them whenever I feel like it. So hopefully slowly throughout this year I'll finish this series. The Monstrous Matches series by Lillian Lark. So I read Ensnared by the Werewolf, and it was not my favorite, but I heard good things about the other books, and I am very intrigued by the book before Ensnared by the Werewolf, so I do want to continue on with this series. I don't know when, but I still need to read like 6 others. And I know Married to the Devil came out recently. The Monster Ever After series by Layla Faye. So I read Jack during my Halloween vlog. And these are, I'm pretty sure, like all like monster novellas. And I know a couple of them take place around a particular holiday. So I think I'm gonna read those during that holiday. And I think I'm gonna also pick and choose a couple to read whenever the mood strikes. And then hopefully I'll be caught up or finish the series at the end of 2025, because Jack was such a delight. Like it was thoroughly entertaining. Oh yeah, I could have technically read one during Christmas. I didn't. Moving on to the Rebel Blue Ranch series by Lila Sage. So I read Swift and Saddled for the Goodreads Choice Awards. I think the next book will also make an appearance in the Goodreads Choice Awards for 2025. So I want to get caught up on this series before that one comes out, or before the Goodreads Choice Awards. I still need to read the first and third one, and I'm very much looking forward to the third one, so hopefully I can get around to it. Same goes for the Dream Harbor series. Once again, I read it for the Goodreads Choice Awards. I read the second book, and I still need to read the first and the third book. The third book was a Christmas book, and then the fourth book will come out in May, so hopefully around that time I will be caught up. From Nothing series, the first book being Garum Park, I really enjoyed that one. If I had time in December, I would have read the sequel, but there's also a third book. So I think I'm gonna, once again, my goal is to try and read at least Lot 62 in February, and maybe even Knock Knock, the third one. But that one follows different characters. The Toronto Terror series by Helena Hunting. So I read If You Hate Me in 2024, and I really enjoyed it. And the plan was to stay up to date on the series, but I fell off the wagon. So I still need to read If You Want Me and If You Need Me. So hopefully I can do that soon. The Veiled Kingdom series by Holly Renee is an interesting one, because I read The Veiled Kingdom and really enjoyed it, but I haven't heard the best thing about The Hunted Heir, and the third book hasn't come out yet. So because of the mixed reviews of the second one, and also the time that has passed, I'm okay with DNFing the series, but I'm gonna wait for reviews for the third one. If the reviews are good for the third one, I'm gonna read the second book and just finish this series. If they're as mixed as the second book, then I'm gonna just DNF this series. Mid-Century NYC by Cat Sebastian. So I read We Could Be So Good, and I thought it was a standalone, but later in 2024, You Could Be So Lucky came out, and apparently that is part of a series. I really enjoyed We Could Be So Good, and since this is like this is an interesting book or series. It's different from most books I read, so it's technically a historical romance, but it takes place in like the 60s. So definitely different from the normal historical romances I read. Plus they're male. So I don't think I would have continued on with it if it wasn't for the fact that it was so different from what I normally read. But I still need to read the second one, so I haven't done that yet. So those were all the series I started but have not continued on with yet. Now for the series I got caught up on. Like I said, there were 5. The first series is the Sweet Demon series by Viano Onyomo. So I read Sweet Vengeance at the beginning of the year, and then Sweet Surrender came out later in 2024, and I actually read it in November. Really, really enjoyed it. I don't know if she's going to continue on with the series, but for now, I just put it in the got caught up category. Maybe if this is the last one, I will eventually move it to finished. The Rose Hill series by Elsie Silver. So, of course, Wild Love came out at the beginning of the year. She started this series. And even though I was in reading slump, so I didn't read Wild Eyes as soon as it came out, but I made sure to read it in December. And it actually made it onto my favorites video of 2024. So an amazing series. The Saga of the Unfated by Danielle L. Jensen. So A Fate Inked in Blood came out earlier in 2024. And the second book comes out in 2025 sometime. So it's a series I got caught up on. Same for The Striker. I read and loved that book. It came out in November. I believe the second one will come out in 2025 in November too, or October or something. I am caught up on it, and I will read the sequel as soon as it's in my hand. And the last series I started and got caught up on is the Ruinous Love Trilogy, the first book being Butcher and Blackbird. So I read Butcher and Blackbird because I knew Leather and Lark was going to make it onto the Goodreads Choice Awards, and for some reason I just felt like I didn't want to start with Leather and Lark. So I read Butcher and Blackbird and then read Leather and Lark for the Goodreads Choice Awards. And the third book comes out next month, and I will for sure be reading it because I also think it's going to make it in the Goodreads Choice Awards. So that means that I'll probably finish this series in 2025. There were 3 series I started and finished this year. The first series being the Mindfuck series. It's a series of 5 novellas, but in total it's like the size of a longer book. So I started it this year and finished it this year. Same for the Letters of Enchantment. I read this in the vlog where I read BookTube's favorite romances video, and I read the first book and then read the sequel not too long after. It's only a duology, so it wasn't that big a deal. The Legacy of God series, they're all here. So I started God of Malice for my first vlog of the year, and then I wanted to read God of War when it came out, so I made a concerted effort to finish that series. I actually did a vlog where I binged the second, third, fourth, and fifth book in anticipation for the sixth one. So definitely check that out. I really loved reading this series and finishing it. I know she's going to come out with another book, but it's a spin-off, so I do consider this series finished. I started 4 series and that I also DNF'd. The first one is Yakuza Lover. The first book didn't do anything for me. It's a manga series, but I'm not that interested to continue on with it, so I DNF'd it. The Scoundrels series, so I read Lord of Scoundrels and I really, really loved it. And a part of me actually wanted to continue on with this series since I really love Lord of Scoundrels so much. But I have heard so many good things about that book, yet I never hear anybody talk about any other books in this series. And since I already have so many series that I want to finish, I just decided to DNF it. Definitely let me know if you've read any other book in the Scoundrels series, and if you think it's worth the effort to read it, then I might continue on. The Sexy Sleepy Hollow series, so I read Riding the Headless Horseman, and even though that book was the one I looked forward to the most in that vlog, I ended up loving Jack so much more, so I'm not going to continue on with this series. And the last one I started and DNF'd was The Courting of Bristol Keats. I did a review for this, and I definitely didn't like it. I'm not going to continue on with this series. It's only a duology, but I didn't like the first book that much that I don't want to continue on with it, so I DNF'd it. Now for the series I got caught up on. So in total, I got caught up on 7 series, 5 of which I already talked about since I also started them. Then 2, I got caught up on them, and I had started it in another year. So the first one is the Kings of Sin series. I think I have the book here. Yeah, the Kings of Sin series by Anna Huang. So I read the second book for the Goodreads Choice Awards of 2023. And then I still needed to read the first, the third, and the fourth one. And I did that in 2024. And the Maple Hill series. So once again, I read the second book for the Goodreads Choice Awards of 2023. And I still needed to read the first one. And then the third one came out this year and I read it for the Goodreads Choice Awards of 2024. So I got caught up on this series. I don't know if Daydream was the last one. I'm not sure. I think I need to research that. Or if you know, let me know. But if it is the final one, I'll just move it to finished instead of caught up. For the series I finished 8 series in total. 3 of which I already talked about. Those were series I started this year. Then 5 I finished and I started them earlier. So the first one is a big accomplishment for me because it's the Illuminate Files. The reason it's an accomplishment is because I actually started this series, let me see, in 2016. So like 8 years ago, and I finally finished it. So I'm very happy I finished that one. And I really loved it. It got me out of my reading slump and I'm so happy I finished it. The X-Hex series by Aaron Sterling. So I'm pretty sure I read all of them in the year they came out. So I read the X-Hex the year it came out, then the second book of the year came out, and then the third one came out this year and I finished it. The King of Scars duology. I believe I read King of Scars at the end of 2023 and then I finished it the beginning of 2024. The Brother Puckers duology, I believe it's called The Brother Pucker, so there's only 2 books out, I think. So I read Trick Shot in 2023 and then I thought it was a standalone, but then Puck Shy came out during Valentine's Day, so I read that one. Since there's only 2 brothers, I'm pretty sure this is a completed series. And then the Souls trilogy by Harley LaRue. I think I read the first 2 in 2023 and then I finished the third book in 2024, and an amazing series. And last but most certainly not least are the series I DNF'd. So every once in a while I'll look through my series spreadsheet and like really think about some of the series that have been on there for a while and to see if I want to continue on with it. So some of them I don't really have a real reason, but the only one is I nothing in me wants to continue on with it. Like there are so many other series that I have not continued on with yet that I prefer over these ones. 4 of them I already talked about. Those were series that I DNF'd that I started this year, and then 15 are series that I DNF'd even though I started them earlier. So the first one is the Amulet series. So this one has been on my series spreadsheet for so long, and a part of me thinks, why not just finish it? It's only a graphic novel series, but like it has been on there for so long. Like I started it in 2014, and in the 10 years I never really continued on with it, so I'm just gonna leave it be. The next one is Snow Like Ashes. Once again, I started this one in 2014, and I think I've only read Snow Like Ashes, even though I have the entire series and I've had it for a while now. Nothing in me wants to continue on with it. And like there are some young adult series from back then that still are talked about and have stood the test of time. And this one, nobody really talks about it. And even back then, it wasn't that well loved. So I feel like there are other books on my shelves that are better, I think. Moving on. The next one is Wicked by Jennifer L. Armentrout. A part of me still wants to continue on with it, but then a part of me thinks I think there are better paranormal romances out there with dealing with fae. So I just DNF'd it. With the DNFs, I do reserve the right to continue on with them if I'm compelled to, but for now they are DNFs. Next is the Witchland series. This used to be very popular and I read the first 2. Yeah, so my plan was always to continue on with it, but once again, I don't hear that much buzz about it. And there are just so many other new books I really want to read, but also like older books on my shelf that I really want to read, so I'm DNFing this one. The 3 Dark Crowns series, I do have to say with this one, I am still debating actually. It's still on my shelf for now, but for now it's a DNF. I'm not gonna make a concerted effort to actually read it, but maybe if I still have to read it for a vlog, or maybe I do decide to unhaul it and then that will be a final DNF of the series. But for now, I did move it to my DNF series. Under the Never Sky by Veronica Rossi. This one, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm going to talk about it in another video that comes out in March. But I am DNFing the series once again. An older series that just didn't stand the test of time, on BookTube at least, so I'm just gonna DNF it. Planet of Desire. So I really enjoyed the first book in this series, and this is a alien romance series. And basically the first two are one particular species, and then the last two are different species. And I was more interested in the first species, and for a while I thought I was gonna finish it, but then when I looked at my series, I was like, I really, like, nothing in me wants to read the third and fourth one, so I'm just gonna DNF it. A Touch of Taboo series by Katie Robert. So the first book in the series was Your Dad Will Do, and I really enjoyed this one. But then I read another one, and it is pretty similar. I feel like the rest of the books are pretty similar to each other, and I also haven't heard the best things about the MMF one, so I'm just gonna DNF it. I did read 2 books in this series. I read Your Dad Will Do and Seducing My Guardian, but I think it's fine. I'm just gonna leave it at that. The Highlands Laird series. A part of me still wants to continue on, but I read The Secret, and continuing on with the series would mean I have to reread The Secret since I forgot a lot of things about it. So maybe in the future, if I'm compelled to reread The Secret and I really want to continue on with it, then I will in that case. But for now, I have no real plans to reread The Secret and so many other historical romances that I have not read yet. The Wraith Kings series. So Radiant was a lot of people's favorite books. I read it, I enjoyed it, but it was not my favorite. So in that case, a part of me wanted to reread it to see if maybe I just read it, like, was right book, wrong time. But I'm not really that compelled. And then the sequels, I don't know, I just don't really. There are other Grace Ravens that I want to read more than continuing on with the series. So for now, it's a DNF. The Full Metal Alchemist series. So this is an interesting one because I read the first 6 volumes and it was a struggle for me, but a lot of people really love it, like including my brother. He loves the anime. So my goal for now is to watch the anime in 2025. And that will determine if this stays a DNF or if I'm gonna go back and read it again and continue on with the series. The Holly Knight series by Lee Jacot. So as much as I definitely did enjoy this series, I read the first 7. I just feel like at one point they're pretty similar, all of them, and I think 7 is enough to enjoy the series. I don't need to read any more. But I would highly, I still recommend these books because I think they are fun, quick, smutty, good times. But I think I'm done after 7. The Underworld series by Sophie Lark. So I read the first 2 because those were recommended to read before you start the Kingmaker series, so I did. And it was on my series spreadsheet, so the plan was to finish it. But right now where I'm at, I just don't really want to read any more in this series. And also with this one, maybe in the future if I really want to read all of Sophie Lark's backlist, but I think she has other books that I really want to read, and there are other mafia romances that I've heard more things about that I really want to read. And Ivan and Snow, I did enjoy Ivan. Snow was okay, and those are really the only 2 books I hear being talked about. The Jacksonville Ray series. So this one I actually talked about in my video last year, which I'll leave linked for you. I was debating back then if I was going to DNF it or not. For now, it's a DNF because once again, nothing in me is really compelled to continue on with it. I believe an FFM was teased in the first book, so maybe if that one comes out and it gets good reviews, I might read that one. But for now, I think reading Pucking Around was great on its own, and I don't really feel the need to continue on with the series. And last but most certainly not least is the Lore Olympus series. So I read the first 5 volumes and I like it, but it's definitely not my favorite. I'm not obsessed with it the way I am with Spy Family, and they are pretty expensive to buy. And I tried reading it on Webtoon, and that's not really my favorite way to read graphic novels. So we'll see. For now, I still own the first 5. Maybe if I'm compelled to, I'll continue on, maybe online, and see if I really love it. But I feel like 5 volumes should be enough to determine whether or not it is a favorite series or not. And with graphic novels, since they're so expensive, I really have to fall in love for me to invest that much money. And for now, I just don't feel that way. So those were the 15 series I DNF'd. And let's just finish off with my goals. So like I said, right now I have 48 open series. My goal is to get to 40 open series. I know that there are a couple series. I'm going to be starting actually this month, because I'm gonna do another BookTube's favorite romances video where I'm gonna be starting a bunch of series. I don't want to put too much pressure on myself, but I do want to lower the amount of series I'm starting. My ultimate goal would be to have only 10 open series and to finish some series before starting new ones, but I'm not there yet. But I would love it if at the end of 2025 I have 40 open series at most. So I mean, obviously even better would be even less series, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So 40 open series, I would be the happiest camper in the world if I got to that. I'm not gonna put too much pressure on myself, but I will be doing some finishing series vlog this year to force myself to finish some series. And I also want to make an effort to also continue on with some series that are a bit longer. Since last year, I focused a little bit more on finishing shorter series, which makes sense since that's an easier way to finish it. But some of my favorite series are longer ones, and especially like, for example, the Victorian Rebels. I know for sure a couple of them I'm gonna love, but I have to continue on with it, you know what I mean? So that was my series check-in. Definitely let me know in the comments below. I'm interested, how many series are you reading at the moment? Leave all that in the comments below. And I would also love to know, especially for the series I'm DNFing, which one of these do you think is a shame if I DNF? Maybe you can convince me that I should continue on with any of these. And if you're down there, leave me a hockey stick emoji for like the amount of hockey romance. Although it could be worse. I don't have that many hockey romances, but leave a hockey stick emoji in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know by leaving a like if you did. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.